Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? So there is some roster news. And by the way, just prepare yourself for this because it's going to come hot and heavy now. The Saints on Wednesday open up training camp, and on the eve of training camp, they've announced 6 roster moves. They've signed 3 players and obviously had to have 3 corresponding moves. So the Saints have agreed to terms with center Nick Martin, running back Malcolm Brown, and defensive end Scott Patchin. They've waived punter Daniel Whalen, offensive lineman Derek Schweiger, and cornerback Jordan Miller. So it was interesting because the news on Monday was that the Saints were going to work out Jordan Howard and Chris Odom. Howard, you might remember, was a Pro Bowler as a rookie with Chicago Bears. Came into the league, popped as a rookie. Then he, they sort of split time in that Bears backfield with Tariq Cohen. Howard's production sort of went down. He went to Philly and had a nice season, and his production continued to drop. He had some injuries, had a shoulder injury, just a lot of tread on the tires, or came off the tires, and it was with Miami, then back to Philly. And anyway, but you got a guy that's 27 that still seemed to have some run. So it made sense that they would bring Jordan Howard in. And then Chris Odom was the USFL's Defensive Player of the Year. They previously worked out Darius Victor, who was the USFL's Offensive Player of the Year, and then they brought in Chris Odom, who was the USFL's Defensive Player of the Year. Had 12 and a half sacks in the USFL, which led the league. 12 and a half sacks, 8 TFLs, 6 forced fumbles, blocked 4 kicks. Dude was a menace, but it does go to show you, doesn't it, like how great the chasm is from being a great defensive player in the USFL, like literally the best defensive player in the USFL, and then being a journeyman in the NFL. Odom, from 2017 to 2019, played in 11 games. Played in 7 games in 2017. Didn't play in a game in 2018. Played in just 4 games in 2019. And then obviously was out in 2020 and 2021. Now back in the USFL and trying to work out for the Saints. But listen, I think it's going to be very hard for anybody to make the team at defensive end for the Saints. You've got Cam Jordan. You've got Marcus Davenport. Let's hope he stays healthy. Peyton Turner is back and healthy. Carl Granderson, Tano Passanio, Taco Charlton. You just have a lot of options at defensive end. It's going to be really hard for anyone to come in and earn a roster spot. So they signed Scott Patchin today, and Scott Patchin, you're going to go ahead and assume, is a camp body. I don't know how you're going to assume that Scott Patchin, who's played a lot of football in his career, but how Scott Patchin is going to earn a roster spot on this team at that position. So the Saints signed Scott Patchin. They also signed Nick Martin today. Martin is very interesting to me because he was a very good player. Nick Martin played for Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. He was a center at Notre Dame. When he came out of Notre Dame, he was a second-round pick of the Houston Texans. And right away became the Texans' starting center as a rookie. Started all 14 games in which he played as a rookie and did not miss a game in 2018, 19, or 20. Started all 16 games in 2018, 19, and 20. He leaves Houston, goes to the Raiders this past season after being a 4-year starter at center, signs with the Raiders, and didn't start one game. Played in all 17 games, but did not start all year. So, bizarre. Like, really bizarre. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I followed every snap of Nick Martin's career or what happened last year in Las Vegas to tell you, but why it panned out that way. But you have a guy that has started 62 games in his career, a guy that's still just, 29 years old, which as a running back, you're ancient. But as an interior offensive lineman at 29 years old, you still got a lot of run in the NFL if you're Nick Martin. So, listen, Eric McCoy is very clearly the Saints starting center, but one of the big issues in New Orleans right now is what do you do with McCoy and Ruiz? If something were to happen to McCoy, like what happened last year, Ruiz slid over to center, and then Throckmorton went in at guard. Well, now you're disrupting two spots. You don't have Will Clapp anymore, who is also one of your backup centers, as he's now with the Chargers. So Martin potentially comes in and is Eric McCoy's backup. He's another guy that can play any of your three interior spots, but more importantly, could be a center in a pinch, and you wouldn't have to disrupt two positions. Now, my feeling is, I'm sure many of you share this thought, that Cesar Ruiz is a better center than he is a guard, but you're not moving Eric McCoy, who's one of the best centers in the game when he's healthy. So maybe bringing in Nick Martin gives you depth at that position and potentially could be a guy who makes this roster, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if it happened that way. Just really bizarre that that he was signed as a free agent by the Raiders, but he just backed up Andre James in Las Vegas all last season, just lost the job. So, it's a potential opportunity there for the Saints to add. Now they have signed a guy who's got a lot of starting experience on the interior of the offensive line. The one, though, that's going to get the most attention is Malcolm Brown. And this is a name that everybody probably knows. Malcolm Brown played collegiately at Texas and was, as a running back at Texas, he was a guy that carried a heavy load over 4 seasons. Malcolm Brown ran the ball 630 times. Those are like Wisconsin running back-like numbers. 630 rush attempts over 4 years. Each of his last 3 years at Texas, he went over 200 yards or 200 attempts in those seasons. That's just a beating. That's how you see running backs when they hit 30 years old fall off a cliff, when they've just got so much wear and tear because they've toted the rock for so long. And that's what Malcolm Brown did. He's now at 29 years old. He had such a heavy workload at Texas. He came into the NFL with the Rams their last year in St. Louis and only played in one game as a rookie, but then played in 16 games, then 11, 12, 14, 16. Played a lot with the Rams throughout his career. And then this last season went to Miami as a free agent, started 3 times, averages 3.8 yards per carry. His best year ever was with the Rams in 2018 when he averaged just shy of 5 yards a carry. But I'll continue to stress this. If it's Malcolm Brown or Jordan Howard, or clearly it's Malcolm Brown who they signed, or any of the veterans that we've discussed, with the exception of Sony Michel. Sony Michel was the one guy who I think could have come in and been a really dynamic offensive player for you. But all of these running backs that we've discussed, the Saints signing this offseason, have all been guys that are a Band-Aid. They are a supplement. You're not asking them to come in and to be your bell cow, your lead back. You're asking them to come in and look, say, Kamara's my guy, but we might be missing him for 6 games. Could you and Mark Ingram carry the load? Or could you and Abram Smith carry the load for 6 games while AK's out? And then when AK's here, can you be a guy that gives us 5 to 7 touches a game just to spell him? Like, that's the idea behind signing one of these veteran backs. I don't need a star player. If you were looking for the superstar, you would have signed one in free agency or you would have drafted one. They didn't do that. They didn't do either. So this is really just a way that they're trying to supplement that position in case if Kamara misses 6 games, to see if you have a better option than an aging Mark Ingram, in case if Abram Smith, who they're high on, doesn't pan out at this level. It's what happened last year with Tony Jones. I mean, people were excited about him, in preseason. Then he made the team, he got a shot, and it just didn't work out. So that's why they went and re-signed Mark Ingram. So on its face, I like this. They needed to add another running back. They've added a guy who's played a lot of football, 330 rush attempts. He's rushed for 1,300 yards in his career, 72 touchdowns, played in 77 career games. I like the fact that they're adding a guy that's played a lot of football and has primarily been a backup. He knows that role. Let's see how efficient he can be in it. So the Saints have added Nick Martin and Jordan Howard here, along with defensive end Scott Patchin. Camp begins on Wednesday, and camp battles begin in earnest, and opportunities to see who's going to make that final 53-man roster as the Saints head toward the start of the 2022 season. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.